It's time to eat.
What are you hungry for?
Sit down and get ready to consume an abundance of fantasy football knowledge from Ross Tucker and Joe Dolan.
Feed me now. I'm starving.
On the Fantasy Feast Eating Podcast.
Yeah, he's back, baby. Let's eat. It is the Fantasy Feast Eating Podcast. We are, of course, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Should have John Daigle back next week on the promised simulcast Even Money Fantasy Feast podcast, talking about NFL draft prop bets. Thought we might do that this week. Didn't exactly work out as we had anticipated, but hopefully we will do that vaunted Even Money Fantasy Feast simulcast next week, where we get a chance to talk about all the NFL draft prop bets. John Daigle is pretty darn good at it. Joe Dolan's pretty darn good at everything as it relates to fantasy football. You guys already know that. He's one of the esteemed members of the former Fantasy Feast co-host club, along with Evan Silva. He is the fantasy gangster. You check him out on social media at FG_Dolan. Love me some Joe Dolan. Always have, always will. He does a terrific job on all the outlets, including doing a terrific job for fantasypoints.com. All right, Joe. This is perfect timing because it's kind of the last episode where we're talking about the prospects from a fantasy standpoint before they end up being drafted. You and I did this the last few years. We had your guy Brett Whitefield come on. We would have your receiver guy, Matt Harmon. We had all kinds of guys come on in prior years. Let's start with this, okay? And I asked Fran Duffy a similar question last week, but for our purposes, which quarterbacks do you see being fantasy relevant next year, if any? And how high are you thinking that you would take them? I mean, right now it feels like we only really know about one landing spot. Cam Ward with the Tennessee Titans, with Calvin Ridley and some of the other players they have there. Is he enough to be a fantasy relevant guy, Joe?
Yeah, he's got the kind of talent that you look for, you know. I think Fran, if you want to bring up Fran, I think that's a good transition, because I believe Fran has compared Cam Ward to Kyler Murray. Now, my opinion on Kyler Murray has been made known. I don't think he's somebody who's improved since his rookie year, and I'm tired of drafting the freaking guy. But maybe Cam Ward gives us a fresh kind of look at that kind of profile. Somebody who can run around, who has a big arm, can make all the throws, that old cliche, and goes to a team where he's going to start immediately. So where you draft Cam Ward is a question of what format are we talking about. All right, so are we talking about a just standard redraft league? Well, I'm going to guess we're going to rank him somewhere in the quarterback 18 to 22 range, making him a solid backup quarterback, but you draft him there understanding there might be some upside there with his legs and his running ability, and the fact that he's got a receiver. It's not hopeless, right? I don't want to overreact, because last year, I believe we had a discussion on this very show saying Caleb Williams went into one of the best situations a rookie quarterback's ever gone into, and he did not have the kind of rookie year that we were anticipating. So I don't want to overrate Cam Ward the way I overrated Caleb Williams last year, but I think quarterback 18 to 22 would be a fair range for him in kind of a redraft sort of league. If we're talking rookie drafts, he's a first-round pick. As a matter of fact, I am currently doing, Ross, and this is good timing for the show, a rookie superflex tight end premium rookie draft pre-NFL draft. I had the third overall pick. The only quarterback on my roster worth a damn right now is Jalen Hurts. I took Cam Ward third overall after Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton came off the board. I thought that was the right spot for him based on the needs for my team. He is a slam dunk first round pick in that format. Beyond that, we really get into landing spot. Who's going where? Shedeur Sanders does not have a fantasy league-breaking kind of profile. But if Shedeur Sanders lands in the right spot, let's just say he falls the way speculation has been of late, and he goes somewhere where maybe he sits behind, I guess, Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh for a year. Well, then maybe down the line, he can become a Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins type of fantasy asset. Then there's somebody like Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, guys who have higher rushing upside at the position that would be entirely dependent on draft capital and landing spot. And then, Ross, the big wrench that got thrown into everything in the last week, the reported Derek Carr shoulder injury. That opens the door for the New Orleans Saints under Kellen Moore to take a quarterback in the top 10, whether that be Dart, whether that be Sanders, I don't know. Maybe they trade back into the first round. We know Howie Roseman loves to trade back. Maybe Roseman does that at 32 yet again. The last time the Eagles had the 32nd pick, the Ravens traded up to draft Lamar Jackson. Maybe somebody trades up to draft a Dart or a Milroe, one of these quarterbacks that they feel has long-term upside. So landing spot is going to be huge for those guys. But the New Orleans Saints now, with no answer at the quarterback position, they are now really the wild card of the first round, in my opinion.
All right, so I'm not saying that Cam Ward is Jaden Daniels, but I am curious. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix, some of these guys, where did they end up fantasy-wise last year, Joe?
Well, I mean, these guys ended up. I have to take a look exactly at the leaderboards here, Ross, for where they finished. But like, we definitely had Jaden Daniels was a yearly was basically a weekly starting fantasy quarterback, and Bo Nix, once he got his feet under him, ended up just as good. As a matter of fact, looking at total fantasy points, Jaden Daniels was 5th last year and Bo Nix was 7th. So rookie quarterbacks can produce in the right situations. I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on Cam Ward. I think there's an opportunity for Cam Ward to do that. I also think maybe this Titans situation is not a great situation, and he ends up kind of where Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb Williams ranked 16th in total fantasy points last year, but 24th in fantasy points per game. Bo Nix was 10th in fantasy points per game, and Jaden Daniels was 6th. So, would I be shocked if Cam Ward becomes a viable fantasy starter? Absolutely not. He's the only one we could say that about right now, though, given the uncertainty of where these other guys are going to be drafted.
All right, let's go. I think we talked a lot last week. We spent a lot of time on running backs. I want to spend more time on receivers, okay? Receivers, Joe, have been very good. And we've had a lot of really productive rookie receivers. Brian Thomas was lights out as what? At least the third receiver taken. He might not even been the third receiver taken.
He would have been pretty much the consensus 4th receiver. If you'll remember last year, pre-draft, Ross, there was the big 3, and then Brian Thomas was kind of into
Who's
a tier.
Who's the third? I'm thinking Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. Who am I forgetting right now?
Rome Odunze.
Oh, Odunze.
So, Rome Odunze. And then, if you'll remember, Brian Thomas was kind of like put into a tier on his own. Turns out, Ross, he was in a tier on his own, just above the other guys. So,
and you know what's crazy about that? On this show, Sean King said he thought he was by far the best receiver, Brian Thomas. And Greg Rosenthal said his only draft take is you can't possibly draft Brian Thomas high enough.
Yeah.
And yet, evidently the NFL teams, I will say this. You never know what the NFL teams know that we don't know. And that doesn't mean that he shouldn't have gotten drafted higher, but there might be concerns or whatever. You don't know. So I guess this is the age-old question, Joe. What are you telling people right now that email you or tweet to you, what should I do in best ball drafts right now with Travis Hunter?
I think the thing about Travis Hunter is this, and I'll fully admit, Ross, I've said it on the Fantasy Feast in the past, and I understand best ball drafts are going on right now. They're not for me. So I just don't do them until post-draft, although I do believe you can get an edge. I just don't do them until post-draft. But let me filter that question through the lens of what I'm doing right now, which is my rookie drafts. Travis Hunter has been a unanimous first-round pick in rookie drafts because you're looking at somebody where it's, all right, do I think he's probably going to be a corner and a part-time receiver? I think that's the most sensible thing. Ross, you played offensive line. I don't know if you've ever been in a cornerback meeting, but my assertion would be that it's more difficult to play corner part-time than it is to play receiver part-time. So you have this, the most likely outcome to me is he does what Deion did. Deion was a full-time shutdown corner and then dabbled in packages, especially when he was with Dallas. I think his season high in receptions was somewhere in the 30s, with Dallas in the mid-90s. I think that's the most likely outcome. The second most likely outcome, I think, is he just plays corner. The third most likely outcome is maybe a team views him as a receiver first, and then all of a sudden, Travis Hunter, who like his statistical profile, Scott Barrett broke this down for fantasypoints.com. The article is available for free on the website with his rookie wide receiver dynasty rankings. His statistical profile as a receiver, and I believe this aligns with his film, is by far the best in the class. Like, if Travis Hunter never played a snap of corner, he would be the top receiver drafted in this class. That's how good he was as a receiver. I've had some who have compared him to Devontae Smith. He has a slight frame, but he has great ball skills. I think you could see some Chris Olave in his game. That's the kind of player that he is. And then there's the fourth most likely outcome. And I don't think it can be discounted entirely, even though I think it's unlikely. What if he is a unicorn? What if he is Shohei Ohtani? And then he plays both full-time. So, of the four most likely outcomes for Travis Hunter, and this is presuming he's a good player, I find it hard to believe he won't at least be a good player in the league. Of the four most likely outcomes, Ross, 3 of them involve Travis Hunter being a wide receiver at least part-time. 2 of them involve him being a wide receiver full-time. And if he's the best receiver in this class, I would think even those who are low on Travis Hunter would have him no lower than second or third in this class at receiver. That is worth a first-round rookie draft pick. That is probably worth a draft pick in the range of best ball leagues where you're taking a boring veteran, like guys who catch 45 passes in your best ball leagues and who you know are going to catch 45 passes. The Nick Westbrook-Akinas of the world, okay? Draft a Travis Hunter, go get that potential upside there. There is such unique potential here with Hunter because he is a guy who he can be a top 5 pick and be a complete bust at one position and just switch to another position. That's why I think he's such a unique prospect, and I think at the base minimum is he plays receiver at least part-time in the NFL. So I think he's probably a back half of the first round kind of pick for rookie drafts. I think he's a worthwhile double-digit round pick in best ball drafts. And if, let's say, Cleveland comes out and takes him at number 2 overall, and Roger Goodell steps up to the podium and says, the Cleveland Browns select wide receiver Travis Hunter, Colorado, he's instantly somebody who's getting drafted inside the top 70 picks in fantasy football.
Thank you, Huel. I don't know what I was doing beforehand to try to get everything in my body that I want to get in my body. By the way, you can do the same thing. Huel.com/feast today and use my code FEAST. You get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. What I'm showing you guys that are watching, it's the Black Edition ready-to-drink meal in a bottle. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, low in sugar. It's a perfectly balanced meal. You get the convenience. You've got the taste is pretty good. It's actually affordable, which is nice. It's got the protein, so you hit your macros. I didn't even realize till recently how important hitting your macros is. At any rate, new customers, visit Huel.com/feast today and use my code FEAST to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. 2 things I really like: drinking Labatt Blue Light and getting free stuff for drinking Labatt Blue Light or doing something I was already going to do anyway. That's the deal with rewards.labattusa.com. It's called Buy Beer, Get Gear. Whenever and wherever you buy Labatt, just make sure you take a picture of the receipt and then upload it to rewards.labattusa.com, then you can start to get sweet gear like that mini fridge. That's amazing. Rewards.labattusa.com. What's so fascinating to me about it is I think the Browns are going to take him, and I wouldn't be surprised if they convinced him to be like full-time receiver for a year maybe, and then work in the next position, right? Like, hey, we need you here now. Joe, is there another receiver, whether it's Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, T-Mac from Arizona, Abuka from Ohio State, is there another receiver that even before we know what team they're playing for, that you really are excited about and high on?
Yeah, so let's go away from some of the names you mentioned. T-Mac, I think everybody expects McMillan. Unless Hunter gets drafted as a receiver, everybody expects McMillan to be the first receiver drafted. Burden's got some of that after the catch potential. I want to go to a guy that we saw at the Senior Bowl. I was down in Mobile, and my guy Brett Whitefield, I was sitting next to him, and he was absolutely enamored with Jalen Noel from Iowa State. And after the first day of practice, we had an Airbnb down there in Mobile, and Brett gets up at like 3:00 in the morning. I was up closer to 8:00, and he was already out there, probably 3 cups of coffee in, and he's grinding tape on his laptop, and he's just staring at the screen. He's like, I don't know if you ever see The Honeymooners back in the day. My dad loved classic TV, Ross. Like when Ed Norton's watching, oh, yeah, Captain Video. That was Brett Whitefield watching Jalen Noel. He was just enamored, just staring. And he's like, bro, come here. Who does this remind you of? Now I'm like, I just woke up. All right. I don't have any, I can barely speak English right now, let alone tell you who Jalen Noel reminds me of. And he saw him gear down and then catch the pass and then immediately cut up field for some extra yardage. And I'm like, I don't know. I just threw a name out there. I just said, A.J. Brown, just to get him off my back. It's like, no, that's not A.J. Brown. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He compared Jalen Noel to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then, lo and behold, this is before the Combine. Jalen Noel went absolutely nuclear at the Combine. We have a proprietary metric at Fantasy Points called SPORK, which is like a kind of a adjusted spark rating. Jalen Noel was 96th percentile in that. And, we've seen these guys come into the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown right away. Ladd McConkey right away. Come in and just really take this power slot role and translate it immediately into fantasy football production. I think Jalen Noel has the ability to do that. He is perfectly fine height and weight for what his role is going to be. He's 5'11", just under 200 pounds, kind of built like a little bit of a small running back. But he was able to, and this is great news for somebody who's going to be a power slot, he was somebody who was able to share targets with another alpha receiver in Jaden Higgins. And I think both of these guys are going to go on day 2 of the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them go in the second round. And depending on where Jalen Noel lands, man, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a better pro than Emeka Egbuka. I know Egbuka is kind of given that power slot role as well. Oh, he's slot only. To me, that doesn't really matter all that much, given how much teams play 11 personnel these days. But Jalen Noel is one of those guys who I think is a phenomenal rookie draft pick. And I wouldn't be shocked if, depending on where he lands, we're like, oh man, this guy might end up being a borderline first-round rookie pick after the NFL draft.
I want to talk tight ends, Joe. Primarily because I love Tyler Warren, but also because I want to talk tight ends. Mm-hmm. So, it wasn't a great year for NFL tight ends last year. You look statistically, nobody really did that much. Nobody was like overly impressive. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, do they have a good chance to be top 12 tight ends as rookies?
Absolutely. I mean, look, How much did we sit there and say after the Super Bowl, oh, Travis Kelce's washed, blah, blah, blah. And to Travis Kelce's standards, he kind of did look washed. And I know he's coming back this year, maybe just to kind of prove that wrong. Travis Kelce was still 7th in fantasy points per game last year. Mark Andrews was 8th. You know, Mark Andrews had stretches of disappearing last year. Obviously, in the playoffs, he dropped the pass that could have tied the game for the Baltimore Ravens. He had another drop as well. A rookie tight end, Brock Bowers, finished 2nd in fantasy points per game and is going to be a borderline first-round pick for fantasy football. So Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who are, as you well know, Ross, you're a Big Ten football fan, 2 drastically different players. Drastically different. But I think both guys can fit the profile of a big-time fantasy football asset. I think Tyler Warren's somebody who near that goal line is going to be really important. Not just because he can go up and get the football, but because he can give teams that kind of wildcat quarterback. I think the tush push is going to end up getting banned. Well, maybe teams start to do what Green Bay did in the playoffs, you know, direct snap the ball to Tucker Kraft, you know, just give it to somebody who can pick up extra
yards. I love that idea. That's going to happen.
Yeah,
either in the gun or under center because he's a high school quarterback, so he's very comfortable doing it.
And he did it at Penn State. He threw passes at Penn State. So I think somebody who has Tyler Warren is going to use him like that, and that gives you added rushing potential. Imagine he goes somewhere like, look, for instance, I'm not saying he's not going to be a Kansas City Chief because he's not going to last that long. But the Kansas City Chiefs, after Patrick Mahomes got injured on a sneak, they don't sneak him anymore. Well, what if the teams are like, well, we used to do the tush push, or we wanted to do the tush push, but we just never had the quarterback or the personnel for it. Well, now we've got this 250-pound absolute tank who can line up and do all those things for us. I think Tyler Warren can do some of those things. Meanwhile, I think somebody like Colston Loveland compares maybe more to like Sam Laporta. Somebody, and I know Laporta had a disappointing second year in the league statistically. Maybe it took him a little while to come back from that injury, but I think Colston Loveland can be that kind of go-to player in the passing game. I think if you are down on Loveland's athleticism, you think he's more like a Zach Ertz, a catch it and fall down guy. Well, Zach Ertz has caught about 1,000 passes in the NFL. So if Colston Loveland is Zach Ertz, sign me up from a fantasy football perspective. And then there's one more guy who I think needs to be mentioned because he absolutely lit up the Senior Bowl, got hurt, but lit up the Senior Bowl. His name is Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. This guy routed up safeties like nobody's business. I just took him in the 3rd round of a rookie tight end premium draft. I have no idea how he was there, but I do know the group chat was popping off. I got like 3 offers for the pick. It was a 3rd round pick in Rookie Dynasty. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I getting all these offers for this pick? It's a 3rd round pick. And then I looked at the board and I'm like, oh crap, Elijah Arroyo's still there? Click. Just drafted the guy, and that's who everybody wanted. So those are 3 guys who I think, depending on landing spot, Loveland and Warren are going in the 1st round. It just depends on, do they go somewhere where they are the go-to guy in the passing game? I think it's more likely for Warren just based on where he's going to get drafted. But both of these guys, though through different ways, have outstanding fantasy football potential and I'm not saying they will be drafted as fantasy starting tight ends.
I have been enjoying my Smirnoff vodka more and more this offseason. Certainly, we got spring break coming up for my daughters. That sounds like a really good Smirnoff crafting delicious cocktails time. There's not really much debate over who the number 1 pick is going to be. It's going to be Cam Ward to the Titans, just like Smirnoff is the world's number 1 vodka and my number 1 pick, because you don't have to pay $1 zillion for it. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. All you need to know about Smirnoff is not only are they the official vodka of the NFL, they're the official vodka of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. These people have exquisite taste. Smirnoff, yum, get some. Wow. Love it. Joe coming strong. All right, Joe, I might get back to Ashton Genty if we have time.
Yeah.
But we all know about him. I want to know about the other guys at running back. Is there somebody that you or your folks at Fantasy Points like Brett Whitefield, is there another guy at running back that people are saying, I'm telling you, you got to get this guy. He's going to be the guy. Almost no matter where he goes, he's going to be big time productive.
Yeah, so I'm just going to briefly touch on Omarion Hampton because I think everybody knows he's going in the first round right now. I don't come up with player comparisons out of nowhere, but when I saw Omarion Hampton, and then especially after he measured in at the combine, I'm like, this guy's Deuce McAllister. Like, that's the kind of player he is. And I think it's fascinating that the Denver Broncos need a running back. Obviously, Sean Payton had Deuce McAllister at the beginning of his tenure in New Orleans. He actually ran for 1,000 yards in Payton's first year with the same. I don't know if he's going to last that long for the Broncos. The other guy who everybody wants to talk about is Cam Skattebo. The film guys, a lot of film guys don't seem to like Skattebo as much as a lot of the analytics bros do, because Skattebo's analytical profile is outstanding. I mean, he's putting up better numbers than basically anybody in the class. And when I watched him on tape, and this is, like, again, I'm not a trained tape guy, but when I watched him, I had flashbacks to a certain player who I absolutely loved coming out in the 2017 NFL draft. He came from a small school, but he had one of the best rookie seasons for fantasy football we have ever seen from a running back. Watching Cam Skattebo, I said, this guy's Kareem Hunt. Like, he was not fast. Kareem Hunt ran like a 4.62. And everybody's like, oh my God, it's so slow. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care. He can catch the ball. He breaks tackles. He has an incredible contact balance. I didn't care that he ran slow. Cam Skattebo ran like a 4.6 something at his pro day. That's what I thought he was going to run. I think he profiles like a Kareem Hunt, a true 3-down back, a true tone setter. Forget about what Kareem Hunt was for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. He was a plotter. They just needed him because Isaiah Pacheco got hurt. That's why they brought him back. He did not have the big plays that he had in the past where he's just breaking a bunch of tackles. Think about Kareem Hunt 2017. Go back and watch Kareem Hunt's first game against the New England Patriots. He fumbled on his first carry, and Andy Reid went right back to him. And then he had, 300 yards from scrimmage in that game? He was outstanding. Not saying that's what Cam Skattebo is going to do in his first game, but that's the kind of player I think Cam Skattebo can be in the NFL, and that's why I am kind of enthralled with Skattebo. I think some team's going to fall in love with him, and I think he's going to be a day 2 draft pick, and that team's going to view him as their starting running back at some point in 2025.
Joe, you are the man. Check him out on social media at FG_Dolan. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod, and we got NFL draft prop bets next week. I'm stuffed. We're done.
Thanks for tuning in to Fantasy Feast. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.